all that good stuff. So we do that. We talk about like the differences between like a tech interview, a screening, a behavior interview, and it's other people that's going to be on the call that have or are currently interviewing. So maybe if they feel comfortable, they can share how they feel, because everybody be nervous. Oh, Toy, you in HR, but still, everybody be a little nervous anyway. So it's like, let's just talk through this. And another thing, when you start interviewing, just pull up and let's prep together. Like, let's get you to where like we can have concrete evidence of like some work that you've actually done and related back to them interviews and stuff. So we can kind of prep a little bit. So that's on August the 27th at 7 p.m. The console. So like I was telling you a minute ago, whatever you need, talk through something. If a technical concept is unclear, if you got a problem with your transition plan, whatever, I don't care. The sky blue, you saw some on LinkedIn, whatever it is, pull up. Let's talk through it, because I want to make sure, especially as we navigating through this space, this is new. So let's make sure you not only feel supported by me, but as you go through, like, for example, the Career Accelerator next month, if you meet other people that have similar backgrounds, you kind of can connect as well and build your network too. And the third one in there. So I don't know if y'all were aware of this, but I have a referral program. And if there's someone or something that you feel would benefit from the training here, you can use that link to sign up, and like you create your coupon code. And, excuse me, I got the hiccups. And they get 15% off, and then like they get 15% off if like they share their link. They get 15% off, and then you get like a $55 credit for every sign up. So if it's something that somebody that be like, you know what, he or she might be good for this, or whatever the case is, you can always sign up and just do it as a referral. Like, it gives you your own link, you share your link. It's kind of like affiliates, but people don't really, I really don't push it out there the way I probably should. But I wanted to put that out there just to make sure y'all had the opportunity if it was something that you wanted to take advantage of. But with that being said, any other questions before we start? Is that legal? Okay, I'm like, that don't sound right. Okay. Um, can y'all see my screen? Okay, I'm gonna start recording. All right. So let's start out first of all with refreshing what we talked about last week. Like I was telling you all last week was our introduction to SQL. It was our foundation session. We are going through here, and we honestly are just learning about SQL on session 1. However, what we learned in session 1 is going to build us out forever. Every part is equal. Last week, we got into those 4 DML languages: select, insert, update, and delete. And you all had the ability to apply all of your changes: select, insert, update, delete. We performed those last week. It's cool for you to understand like all 4, but select is going to be your bread and butter. So if the insert, update, and delete was a little unclear to you, you'll survive. And the reason being is because when you get your role as a data professional, it's supposedly like part of our responsibility to keep our data safe. So once you get your role, you might not have all the permissions to insert the data, update the data, or delete the data, but you will be retrieving the data. So going forward, every last one of our sessions, we just selecting data. But remember, when we select our data, we are selecting whatever our columns are, column, from where though? From your table. All of your data is stored in your table. Anything that is in your anything that is after your select statement, what my mouse did there is. All of our columns after our select statement is what's going to show up in our output. And we'll actually do that once y'all start doing your code as well. So any questions about selecting that data? Okay. Now, for this one, okay. For this session, another thing that I said last week is that everything that we do is essentially going to build upon something else. So this week, what I'm going to introduce you all to is 2 things: logical operators and aggregate functions. Now, I want to start out with them logical operators because logical operators are essentially filters. Logical operators allow you to filter your data on multiple conditions. So remember last week where we were like, I need all the students to have a B. I need all the students who were from this state, or all the students who were biology majors, or whatever the case is. That is a filter. And last week, we were only filtering on one thing. We were like, all the students who got to be, all the students who are from this. But logical operators allow us to filter on multiple conditions. I need all the students who have a B and are in psychology. I need all the students who have a C and are from this teacher. I need all the students who are from this and this. Logical operators give you the ability to be extremely like specific with how you're going to filter out your data. So last week, when we were introduced to filters, this week we're going to take it a little bit further and say, all right, let's filter now on multiple conditions. And how do we do that? Logical operators. So these are your logical operators here. This is not all of your logical operators. Is there the expectation for you to like memorize every single logical operator? No. But these are some of your common logical operators, and specifically like and, or, between, and in. This is like gonna be your bread and butter, because when you think about how you're probably already leveraging data now, it's one of these. So logical operators essentially allow for you to be able to filter out your data based on those multiple conditions. And if you notice with these logical operators, your logical operators go right below your filter. So we have like select, our columns, from, our table, where, this column equals this value. This is what we stopped at last week right here. Then we turn around and say, and this is greater than this. When I look at this code, what do you think is going to show up in my output? Greater than. But I be getting greater than and less than mixed up too, Shira. Is that Shira? Like every time I do it, I literally have to like do my hand like this. So you're not wrong, but you're right. So in your output, what are you gonna get when I execute this code? Yep. And what else though? What else you gonna get? Yes. That's right. I'm gonna get a list of salaries that are in the IT department and who have a salary greater than 50,000. Yes. And at its core, that is their logical operator because I'm essentially filtering out my data on these conditions. I need a list of employees where this column equals this value, where department equals IT, and what the and salary is greater than 50,000. So this output is going to give me a list of employees or a list of data that meet both of those conditions. Because when we say and, it's essentially still in our natural language. How do we use and in our natural language? I want this and this. Give me both of them. I need this and this. When we're writing our code and we say where this column equals this and this column is greater than this value, my output has the expectation to meet both of those conditions. They got to meet both of them. So in my output, I'm not going to have anybody from HR. I'm not going to have anybody from another department. I'm only going to have what I define. That's how the and works. Any questions about that and? Now, when we are filtering our data, we have to make sure that we are only filtering it on columns. Remember, in SQL, everything goes back to tables or columns, period. So I'm pulling data from my table. If I'm applying filters to that data, I can only filter on those columns. I got to filter on somewhere. So when you write your code, it's important that you are very specific on like, all right, this is the column and this is the value that's inside that column. Or when I look at this code, what is this going to, what's my output for this code? So when I'm writing this, in my output, I'm either going to get employees from HR or IT. If they meet either one of these conditions, I need that data. So, or in its natural language, it ensures that at least one of those conditions are met. If it meets this, or if it meets that. Whereas an and, it's like it has to meet this and this. But or is like it can do this or this. So in this case, I need all of my employees that are from the IT department or HR. I need basically all HR or IT. Between used to be so weird to me. I remember being on a tech assessment one time and like getting so nervous on between. But when I look back, it literally is like what it says it is. Between is if a value falls into a range. So let's say I'm looking for a certain date or a certain parameters of a date. I only need data that falls between these two ranges. Or in this case, salary. I only need data that falls between these two ranges. Between is going to be your logical operator for these. We are selecting our columns from our table where what though? Where are you talking about where this column between this value and this value. So anytime that data falls between those ranges, I need that output. Now, if I was to come down here and say, I want select my columns from my table where this column between these two values, 40,000 and 70,000. And let's say I only wanted HR. I would come right down here and say, and department equals HR. I would literally just like keep layering my conditions right on top of it. Same format. I'm not changing anything. I'm literally just getting very explicit with the data that I expect to be in my output. Once you get like the rhythm down, you keep layering it right on top of each other. So it functions the exact same way. So it's going to be to the point that when it's going to be to the point, and it sounds so crazy now, but it's going to be to the point where you can look at 80 lines of code and be like, I know exactly what they're doing. Because once you get in the rhythm and once you understand like the core foundation, everything is like some sort of extension of something else, or it's like related to something that we already know. Logical operators is one of them things. Because if I wanted to keep filtering my data, I would just keep writing it right underneath my where statement. Where this column is this, and this column is that, and this column is that, and like you would just keep writing it just like that. Always note though that when you're filtering your data, you only say where one time. So you'll say where this column and whatever your condition is, and everything else will either be like and or like you don't keep saying where. Yep. So you saying like this, Monica, you saying like where department equals IT and salary is greater than 50,000. If you wanted to add another condition on there, you would have to say and this column, this condition, and this column, this condition. Like every condition is gonna be to like a column. Like layering Shira. Like think of it like stacking or something. I would say joining, because when I think of joining, my brain instantly goes to like how y'all join data, or you will be joining data. Think of it like literally like this. Like this is the first condition, this is the second condition, this is the third condition, this is the fourth condition. Like you layering them conditions right on top of each other. Yes, like you layering them right on top of each other. If I was to say where this column equals this value and this column equals this value and this column equals this value, you'll have your little rhythm going. Now, if you wanted to do something like this, in is an opportunity to where you have the ability to check in one column for multiple values. Like if I want to say I need all the people from IT, HR, and finance that are from this column, in can give you the ability to do that. So let's say I'm looking at one perfect case. Healthcare is an excellent case for this. And the reason being is because in healthcare, they have like all these different ICD-9 codes, all these different codes that are explicit to like certain things. So when you are in healthcare, and I'm looking in this particular column, and all of these particular ICD-9 codes, I need that. So if I was to say select these columns from this table where my ICD-9 code is in, and I list out all them different codes, that gives me all the values that are in that column. Same way HR probably has a lot of like codes and demographics and things like that. If I was to say I need all of these values from this column, N will be perfect for that because it allows you to like essentially list out what you need from that column. But if I'm filtering just like on one, I'm gonna need and I'm gonna have to individually list them out. Any questions on them logical operators? And think of this, last week we filtered. We were like, I need all the students from this. Okay, cool. This week we filtering, but we just added a little bit more to that filter. So this is an extension. This is a direct extension of last week with us filtering. Were y'all able to connect to your VM? Okay. For this one, let's start. Let me know when y'all can see, when your screen looks like this. All right, you don't have to have the tabs, but like when you are connected to your virtual machine, I mean your SQL Server Management Studio. Y'all in there? Okay. Okay. Now, what you say, Sheila? Where you at? Does it look like that? Huh? Oh, we gonna get there. Yeah, we gonna get there. Okay. This is our server, the brain. The main thing, all of your stuff is going to be connected to your server. When you get your roles, you will have probably multiple servers. They're all look just like this. You'll have like a production server, a dev, a QA. They all function the exact same way. They just like if I say production server, that means like this is data that's used now. Exhibit A. I keep going back to Toya, but I've seen so much of your work. Exhibit A, Toya, with you being in HR, with you needing the ability to go and leverage like financial data, salaries, performance, and you going and leveraging that data is being extracted from a production server. Like that's live data somewhere. So when you're in production, that means that data is literally used to produce analysis. So we got our server here. Shira, this is where you were, the databases. The databases is the next the little breakdown, databases. For this one, let's go into our healthcare system database. This will be a new database for y'all to practice on today. And for the record, if you want to come through and practice in here between sessions, that food inspection database is real data. Their stroke study database is real data from the WHO. So that's real data in there as well. If you want to go and like whatever the concepts that we learned and practice in there, you can do that too. So for our use cases today, let's go in our healthcare system database. In this, we got our tables. Remember, all of our data is stored in tables and in columns. So these are our tables for our healthcare system database. Now we expanded, we see our columns. Remember last week we talked about the column types, the data types and the data relationships. Do y'all remember what PK meant? Yes, primary key. What is the primary key? It's the what? It's the unique identifier. If I have this, like for example, this patient, okay, here go my mouse. I feel like I lose my mouse every time. Okay, here we go. This patient ID, that is identified as our primary key. That means that that patient ID is the unique for every single record in that table. Every single record in that table has a unique patient ID. And that's very important because, healthcare data, you can't be having somebody else's data show up for somebody else. That's scary. So that patient ID or that primary key helps us to be able to identify whatever record that we have. If we look at our medical test table, which of these columns is our primary key in our medical test table? The medical test table right on top of that one. So expand your columns into that table. Yep. Now, I'm going to take it a step further. What is my data relationship between my medical test table and my patient's table? How are those two tables related? And don't think too hard on it. Yes. Keep talking, Monica. Why you say that? Yes. Yes. That medical test, in my medical test table, my patient ID is my foreign key, is my FK. If I go down here to my patient's table, my patient ID is my primary key or my PK. Those are my data relationships because their foreign key, the FK, their FK is a foreign key. That's a unique identifier for another table. So if I have my primary key from this table and my foreign key from this table, they literally are like Legos. They're going to fit right into each other. I'm able to join my patient ID from my medical test table to my patient ID from my patient's table. That is the data relationship all day long. And I honed so big on it because in session 3, we actually get into joining our tables, but data relationships and joins are a huge Achilles tendon for a lot of people. But when we think about using them, they go back to data relationships. And they are a huge sore spot for a lot of people because, believe it or not, a lot of people truly don't understand them data relationships. But if you can get your brain, how Monica is, why I want her to talk through that, If you could get your brain to start functioning how Monica brain just literally was like, I can look at this and be like, this is the FK, this is the PK, this is the FK. Once your brain starts functioning like that, and every single time you look at data and it starts picking up those pieces like that, you're good. Because that understanding carries you in Excel, Python, Power BI. It carries you in every part of data. So those data relationships are everything. I've been on interviews before where like they ask like, okay, well, what's the primary key and what's the foreign key? Like those are the type of questions because a lot of people don't be knowing how to explain it. And Toya, when you think about some of the data migration work that you've done, like on some of them payroll systems, I bet you when you were migrating some of that data, you had data quality checks to say, okay, well, this was the ID here and this was the ID there. In doing that work, that's literally right back to data quality and data relationships. So that understanding is like everything. Because like once your brain start working just how Monica's working now, like it's hard for you to unsee that. Any questions on that? Okay. Now, all right. So for this first use case, let's go into, okay. So I'm not gonna tell you the table, but it's gonna be clear because like y'all already looking at the tables. But once I give the first use case to you, in order for you to retrieve the data, you will right click your table and select your top 1,000 rows. And let's talk about that before we get into our use case. So right click your doctor's table and select your top 1,000 rows of that table. Now, remember our top 1,000 is called a limit because it's going to limit the amount of data that shows up in our output. Now, if I did not, when I start writing my code, I need to get rid of that top 1,000 because it's the limit. Let's say I did not want email address in my output. Anything that shows up in my select statement is going to show up in my output. But let's say I don't want email address. I would just double click it. And it's like it never, oh, I didn't mean click it. I would double click it and then click execute. And it's like it never exists. It don't even exist. It comments out that code, that line of code. So it doesn't even show up. Let's say I don't want phone number. I do the same thing. Don't delete columns, just double comment it out because it makes it easier for you. Because let's say you come back and you're like, oh, never mind, I need the phone number now. You just have to get rid of that instead of have to rewrite the column again. Now for this one, let's say I only wanted doctors. I only need a list of cardiologists. How would I write my code to capture this? Cardiologists. I only need cardiologists. You can keep it, but if I was to keep, you can keep this. Oh, where my mouse is. You can keep this code. You keep your select statement exactly how it is. But in my output, I only want cardiologists though. I only need to filter my data to only get doctors who practice cardiology. No, but it wouldn't be in. This not even a logical operator yet, Shiva. This your one liner filter. Yes. So what would I put right after my from? Because I'm selecting column from this table. So what I need to put out to my phone? Yep. And you said it. Where specialty? And what was the value? What's the value? Yep. Select these columns from this table where what though? Where this column equals this value. So now I only have a list of doctors who practice cardiology. That's that baseline filter. Now for the next use case, I write it in the chat. But for the next use case, oh, did y'all get this one first? I want to talk through this one again. And make sure you're like, if it's spelled a certain way, make sure it's literally just like how the data is in a database. Because if not, it's gonna be like, what? Shira, you good with this one? All right, Toya and Monica, y'all good? Okay. Now, for the next use case, I need a list of patients who have had abnormal cholesterol tests. I'm gonna type it in the chat. I need a list of patients who have abnormal cholesterol tests. First things first, your data investigation, go and look and see which of these tables have their data. I need a list of patients who have abnormal cholesterol tests. I'm gonna type it in the chat. Yep. Um, medical test table. But I need a list of patients. So right click your medical test table. And here's our medical test table. So the use case is I need a list of patients who have had an abnormal cholesterol test. So right click your medical test table, get rid of your limit because that's your top 1,000 and write your code to answer this question. I need a list of patients who have had abnormal cholesterol tests. And if you want me to share the screen with the logical operators, I can. But remember, we start out with where. I need a list of patients who have had abnormal cholesterol tests. So that means that they would have to meet both conditions. They would have to be abnormal and cholesterol. Y'all want to talk through it? How y'all coming? It's no rush. I just want to make sure y'all straight. You want to share your screen? What you say? Okay, let me stop sharing so I can see you. Oh, you was like right there. Last 7, you started out strong. You had me in the first quarter. Where she messed up at? Not Monica. My bad, Monica. But your logical operator is 2 different things. So select your columns from your table. Beautiful. Line 7, where that column equals abnormal. Put your close up abnormal. Put your single quote on the other side of abnormal, because when you think about it, on the other side, go to the other side, Shira. Nope, go right on over there. But keep going, keep going. Right there by abnormal. Close your quote after abnormal. Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. You said where result equals abnormal. Beautiful. That same, what is that? I'm having a brain for quotation. Uh, the little check right after abnormal test. You need it behind that. You need it behind abnormal. Yes, yes. Now take that cholesterol down to the line 8. Bring it on there. Now comment that out for now. Hold it. We just gonna comment it out. Put your 2 dashes in front of it. 2 dashes, yeah. Yeah, comment it out. We wanna just comment that out for now. Now undo the 2 dashes, like the 2, like in a chat, like that. Now execute. The first filter. You have all of your data from this table where this column equals this value. Now you also need your, okay, you got this. Now, what you tried to do was essentially combine them 2 values into 1 column. Now you're gonna have to come back down here and say, and this column, which will be your test name column, equals cholesterol test. So you just essentially merge your stuff together. When it's absolutely, you would say and, because we already got our where. We only need where 1 time. Take them dashes out, because now we're going to start on your next part. Yep. Now say and. Now, which column is that cholesterol test value in? Yes. And there you go. Now, you see what you did there and execute. You should be good now. Oh, comment out line 8 and re-execute again. You probably spelled cholesterol wrong because I be doing it. Just comment it out. On line 8, comment out line 8 one more time so we can make sure you spell cholesterol right. Hold on, let me see what the values are. Yeah. I literally be having a copy and paste because like it's CHOLEST Terol. Thole-ser. Okay, that looks right. There you go. Now execute. Yeah, one more. Comment out loud 8 so we can look at your data. Oh, I know. Comment out line 8 one more time so we can look at your data and compare it to your code. I know what the problem is, but I'm going to see if you can find it. Comment out line 8. Put your 2 dashes in front of line 8. Yep. Yep. Now re-execute it. Re-execute. Now scroll down and let's see if we can find cholesterol. There we go. Now look at that value and look at your code. So if I was you, I would copy and paste it. But it's so silly. In your code, you got and test name equals cholesterol test with an S. Yeah. There you go. Oh, and then put your line 8 back in there. Take your 2 dashes off. Yeah. There you go. Perfect. Now you see how, like, if that value, you were saying the same thing, but you basically was like cholesterol test. And the data was like, we don't even know what you're talking about. But that's perfect. And initially, in the beginning, what you tried to do, you said where result equals abnormal cholesterol test, and you just like merge them together. Whereas when we doing them logical operators, we got to say where this column equals this value, and this column equals this value, and this column equals. Like you have to like keep everything separate. Yep. Yeah. It'll work just like how yours work, but look at your code and then look at Shira's code. Now, if I was to look at Shira's code, this is easier for me to read than yours. Like I can look at this easier as opposed to like having everything on one line. So for me, I always do it like how Shira does it, but it'll work. But also, it might make your life a little bit more complicated than it gotta be. Yup. It'll definitely work now. It'll definitely work all day long. But and then another situation, just like a good example of why separate line is just like how Shira was getting her data for where column equals abnormal. We were having to like go back and get rid of line 8, re-execute. Like it's easier to just do it like if I only need to get rid of this, I can do that as opposed to trying to get rid of like a whole line. And it really act crazy, just like how Shira, I'm looking at that. I didn't even notice the S on the end until I'm like, all right, that was why it was like, oh, we don't even know what you're talking about. Now, if we wanted to take it a step further and we were like, all right, I list the patients who have abnormal cholesterol tests and who came in the year of 2024. What column would I use for that? Yep, test date. Yep, and you would say and test date between and then whatever the values are. Like you would just keep layering your stuff right on top of it. Yes. No, say between, Shira. You add instead of equals. No, you would keep your and instead of saying equal though, you would say between after your test date. Yeah. But you just keep layering it right on top of it. And let's do like 2023. So it'd be like 2023 0101. No, you got to do the whole thing, just like how the format is down there. Yeah, 2023 0101 and 2023 1231, something like that. Yep, just like how that format is down there, how that date format is, just like that. Yep. But that is how, you just layer it right on top of it. So once you get like the rhythm of doing that, it makes it easier just to keep your stuff right on top of each other, and you don't have to worry about, you know, having to go through it like that. Yep, put and, because it'll be between this value and this value. Now execute. Now you checking between September 20th, 2023, and there we go. See, look at her data. Shira has a list of multiple conditions. First of all, who had an abnormal test, who had an abnormal cholesterol test, and who had an abnormal cholesterol test between September 20th, 2023 and October 21st, 2023. So with that, and it has to meet all of those conditions to show up in that output. Yep. That logical operator allows you to be very specific in what you need. What you need, though, I need this, and this, and this. I only need that in my output. Shira, change your line 8 where it says and, change it to or. And let's see something else. Now, this is or, because remember, it or, just give, yeah. Remember, with or, it can meet this condition or this condition. So execute that, and you finish the difference in your code. And there you go. So in this, she has the ability to say, I'm pulling all of my data where my result is abnormal or it's a cholesterol test. If it meets any of them conditions, she getting it. But and is like, all right, give me all of these. So that's the logical operator. I'm filtering it, but I'm allowed to filter based on what I really need. And then once you get to like layering it, I don't care if you have 2 conditions or 20 conditions. Once your brain starts looking at that and can break it down line by line, it don't matter. It don't matter. And Shira, you actually did another thing that you did was good when you were writing your code is you started out, you said where this result equals abnormal. Execute first, then come on down and add your other condition. Execute that. Okay, that works. Now I'm coming down and add this condition. Execute that, like literally layering brick by brick, so that in the event that you do have to debug, like you did with that cholesterol test, it's easy for you to do that. You know where you messed up at. So yeah, that's so. Mhm. It is. And to be honest, this is why it's important for like when I tell people, like, for example, you're in education, stay over there. Stay over there, baby. Stay over there, education, but lean into data into that space. Because with you having boots on the ground in that domain, in that field, you know what's relevant. You know what is like falling outside of the realm or what's expected. You know the certain KPIs. You know the business of it. So it's easy for you to look at that. It's easier, I would say, for you to look at something that is off in the space of education than it would be like for me or Toya or Monica, who's in healthcare, or Toya, who's in HR. We would be like, okay, it's a learning curve. Just like when Monica being in healthcare, she knows she can look at a number and be like, that's abnormal, that's high, or that's low, or this is out of the realm. So when you have that underlying like understanding of things, your data is so like specific to that domain that your knowledge is gonna be like where you need to lean in on. Mm-hmm. Bingo. If I looked at that, I'd be like, oh, okay, I would have to do like my data quality work. I would go through from the lens of a data professional. I'm not no teacher, babes. I'm not an educator. So in it, you were able to look at that and be like, something is off because of X, Y, and Z. And you were able to pick up on it fairly quickly. Yep. Come through. That's it. Ain't nobody teach you that. If I was to give you that, that's the difference between somebody that just learned like syntax or code and somebody that has the ability to take what they're learning and relate it back to who and what they already are. That like the ability to marry those things, that's how you're gonna eat. Girl, so you're doing data quality work. You're doing data quality work, and the beauty of what you're, please lean in on it, because in like real life out there in the wild, like how people are actually leveraging and analyzing data, it looks like that. Like it's always like it's unclear, it's different source systems, and they pulling data from here, and their KPI is this, and they don't have all their data, and I got to take it from here and do that and migrate the data here. That's how it be looking. And when you have the ability, like I said, you're an educator through and through. Your background, education, 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 classroom, classroom, KPI, KPI. You already got that. Like you already got this. So when you looking at this data, your in your heart of hearts, this is not right because of X, Y, and Z. I wouldn't have picked that up like that. Somebody that is no shade, but somebody that is like textbook computer science, textbook traditionally, they wouldn't have picked that up like that. They would have just been in there spitting out syntax and spitting out formulas, and the gap to be able to apply it back to like things that can actually be useful, it wouldn't even been there. The fact that like your brain is already churning, like that's it. Like that's gonna be how we are going to push you, because I can't teach you that. I can teach you this, but I can't teach you from the lens of someone with double digit years in education. Baby, you got that's the sauce. So yeah, you're right. And every time you come across, every single time you come across like that, start being hyper aware of what you're actually doing with that data. All right. Because you'll be surprised. They have entire, like my entire time I was at Optum was data quality, data quality, data quality. That's what I was hired to do. Is like I end up using SQL to build our stored procedures, but I was literally like doing what you were doing. I was saying, okay, is this ID, member ID in this table? Does this date fall between this date? do these ICD-9 codes fall between like acceptable codes? Like I was going through line by line and looking to make sure that the data that they were using, example you, is quality data. And that's what you're doing. You're doing data validation and data quality checks. And that's a thing. Because the data don't be good quality, baby. And if you had like somebody that just come through and like memorizing syntax or just regurgitating syntax, they're going to be making decisions that are very critical on some data that's trash. And that's crazy. So, yeah. What it is you living firsthand, like what I'm saying, like if you in healthcare, go, babes, bye. Learn how to leverage data over there, but your all them years that you spent in the classroom, we using it. Like that's who you are. But now take somebody once again they have a background in marketing and they had an expectation to be doing it. They couldn't do it like you. Like they can't. Like you can't. That's why when you get in certain industries and as you start looking for roles and things like that, a lot of times it's like, all right, we need X amount of years in SQL, X amount of years of data analysis, whatever the case is. And it's always like preferred healthcare experience, preferred RN, preferred HR, preferred, because they already know. If I get over here, yes, yes, like you come with it. And yes, I need somebody that can leverage data, but I would prefer someone that has a background in leveraging this type of data though. So yeah, you doing the right thing. So going forward, every time you get something like that, take like if you have to write it down, like take notes of what you're doing because everything that you just told me, those are like concrete examples and talking points for you to interview. So yeah. And people really sleep on like I get teachers, like you're not my first teacher, but people really sleep. I think with teachers, with a lot of people, what I've seen with this, sometimes they have like this identity shift sometimes to where they like it's hard to see them in data or in tech. And I'm like, girl, you've been doing this. But with teachers, once that light bulb goes off, like y'all literally only see y'all stuff as teachers. And it's like, no, like you are. Look at me, I don't know. Do they have? We'll talk, but I'm. Do they have like an import? Okay. That might be your bread and butter right there. Mhm. That's it though. That's it. I love when people are able to like, all right, this is it. This is what I'm doing, and then like start being aware of like them actual skills that you're using. Cause baby, once your brain, like even we was talking about a minute ago with the data relationships, once your brain starts seeing stuff that way, you don't see it that way. No other like it's a wrap. Like now, but you are using like what you learned to make your current work more efficient. You're not gonna ever like go back to seeing stuff how you were 6 months ago. Like it's like you are gonna constantly be looking for ways to make them more efficient. Even once you get that, in another couple of months, you're gonna be like, well, what about if I just do this? Like it ain't gonna never stop. And that's it. Like go get the money. Like that it don't never stop. What you say? Girl, for real though. Like it never stops. It never stops. It never you gonna always be looking for like, okay, well, how can I so should I automate this? Or how can I automate that? Or what can I like your brain always gonna be there, and that's the heck right there. But yeah, we always get but for real though, I love it. Oh. Any questions on these logical operators? Oh, this still Shira screen. But yeah, any questions on these logical operators? Okay. Now y'all see the benefit of it. All right, I need this data. Okay. All right, I need this data, but I only need a list of patients who did this. I only need a list of students who did that. I only need a list of people who did whatever the case is. Those logical operators gonna get you there every time. And when you think about, even in your case, the data that you leveraging now, you're filtering that data. Like it's filtered from somewhere else. It's not every student in the whole school. It's a certain filter. So yeah. Next, let's get into our aggregate functions. Now, aggregate functions are going to be a little new, y'all. They are new. They are new. So aggregate functions is when we get into like that analysis part of SQL. What's the average of this? What's the sum of this? How many people did that? How many people did that? Those are at its core your aggregate functions. And aggregate functions are used to perform calculations on a set of values. That's it. That's all. Did somebody run past here? Oh, she scared me. Oh, it looked like it didn't look real, but then it did look real. I'm like, hold up now. Okay, so aggregate functions are used to calculate, perform calculations on a sum of values. So when we think about our aggregate function, here we have our select statement. We are selecting. We've been doing it. Select. Let's start out with this baseline of an aggregate function. You notice in this select statement, I only got one column. So I'm saying select, sum, and I got my column that I'm performing my aggregate function on in parentheses. So select, sum, and whatever column I'm performing it on, it goes right here in my parentheses from my table. So this aggregate function does exactly like it says it's going to do. It's going to give me the sum. It's going to give me the sum of this whole column. Same with average. It's going to give me the average of this entire column. Count. In this, it has count star because it's essentially saying give me the count of the whole, like all the columns. So count of this column from this table. And max and min is the same way. Give me the max value in this column. Give me the minimum value in this column. So let's say I want the minimum amount of this or the maximum amount of that. I need the average of this or the sum of this. Whatever I'm performing my calculation on is going to go in my parentheses. Whatever column I'm performing my calculation on is going to go in my parentheses. This is at its core. This is the floor. We're going to add on to this in a little bit, but for right now, this is an aggregate function. I need the ability to calculate my value in this column. That is an aggregate function. Any questions about that? Okay. Let's go in our orders DB for this one. Y'all's is orders DB. Mine is like customer order. And let's go in our payments table. So right click your payments table and select your top 1,000 rows. Hey, you're supposed to be upstairs. Um, go upstairs. Go upstairs. Okay, get your water. Let's go in our payments table. So right click, it's in your orders DB. Mine say customer order, but yours is orders DB. And it'll be a payment table. Payment. Mm-hmm. Toya, Monica, y'all get it? Yes. Okay. Now for this one, let's essentially at the baseline for our aggregate function, we would have to move this over here. Okay. Can y'all see? Okay, yeah. So for this one, we only need one column in our select statement for right now. We only need one column. The only column that we need right now is the column that we are actually performing our aggregate function on. For this one, let's give me the average payment, the average amount. I only want the average amount for this column, for this use case. Now, when you're doing this, don't delete all your other columns. Just put your 2 dashes and comment out everything that you don't need. Oh, y'all see my screen. Just put your 2 dashes and comment. Don't comment out everything because you might come back and need it. So for this use case, I only need the average amount. So that is the formula for this. Huh? Except for amount. What is it? Amount, yeah. Because that's what we're going to be performing our calculation on. We only need one column active in our select statement right now, and that's our amount column. So comment out everything except for your amount column and put your function and then put that column in parentheses. We need the average amount. Executed. It should show up like this. We only want one column, and that's that amount column. And I'm explaining to you why in a minute, but I want you to like see it like this first. Y'all good on this one? Okay. Now, here we have our select statement, and we have the only column that's going to show up in our output. AVG, which is average. Then we got the amount. That's the column name that we're performing our aggregate function on all day long. Now, you notice that in your output, you don't have a column name. It literally says no column name. When you are performing an aggregate function, your output does not have a column name because it's not defined. It's not a new column. The column has never been defined. So it's your job to come through and name that column. When we name that column, it's called alias. It's no different than how when you go to the DMV and it's like, all right, first name, last name, alias. This is her first name, this is the last name, but we're going to call her or him this. So in order for us to name this column, we got to give it an alias. So we will come through and say add. And you can name your column whatever you want to name the column. I named the average amount because that's what I'm calculating. So whenever you performing your logical operators, come through and name your column whatever you want to name it. Anything that'll help you like do your analysis, like help me explain what I did here. Because if I started, I wouldn't know what that was. Now, going back to what I was talking about, like how everything we learn go back to something else, that concept for that alias is going to come up again in session 3. So when we name things aliases, we're not changing how the data shows up in the database. We're not changing no column names. We're not changing anything. We're literally like slapping a nickname on it. This is the alias for that column. So here, AVG amount as, and you can name it whatever. If it was the sum of amount, I would name it sum amount. Oh, you're welcome, Monica. See you later. And hit me up, please. Sum amount. Anytime I'm changing that ag function, I have to specify what that column name is. And like I said, that alias concept is going to come up again in session 3. Any questions on this before we get into like the second part of them ag functions? Okay. Now, in this, the way that this aggregate function is, it calculates, I keep it up here for now. So the way that this aggregate function is performing, it's literally calculating this entire column from this entire table. That's what's going on right here. It's calculating every record, every value rather, in this column from this entire table. Let's take it a step further and let's learn to group our ag functions. Group by. Group by is used to group rows that have the same values. Aggregate functions are applied to that group instead of the whole data set. So you're still going to calculate your values or your data, but you're doing it by groups. What does this look like? The average price by product, the average amount from each region. Toya, average salary by department, average salary by state, average salary by region, average salary by director. Shira, what does this look like? Average GPA for a class, average this for this. I'm calculating it, but I'm grouping it too. So that group by allows you to group that data and calculate that data, and it makes your analysis more useful because this right here is more useful to me than that. But I like to start with it because like it helps you kind of understand how they function. So group by is used to group values of like values, but calculated too. Like for example, this one is saying select. Like this is our sales table. So it says select customer, count, order ID, as total order. There go that alias again. From my sales table, group by customers. So this is essentially saying, give me the count of orders by customer. I got this whole table and I really can't tell who bought what, but this group by is going to tell me who bought what. How many did they buy? So that group by is group it, but calculate it. Physically, the way that my brain works is like I have to like see stuff physically. A physical example of this is let's say you're like in a grocery store and you got all of your stuff on this conveyor belt. If I take all of my produce and group it together, I can get the average cost by produce, the average cost by dairy, the average cost by meat. I'm still calculating, but I'm very much so calculating by groups instead of the average cost of the whole conveyor belt. They group by, calculate, but group all day long. And with your group by, it goes right back to what we were saying a minute ago. The only thing that you can have in your select statement is either what you perform in your ag function on or what you're grouping it by. It's going to be two different columns that's going to show up in your output. Any questions on that one? Okay. Now for this one, we can actually stay in our payments table, but for this, give me the average amount by payment method. So I would need the average amount by payment method. So the only two things, I'm gonna type the use case in the chat. Average amount by payment method. So you would have two columns, your amount column and your payment method column. Average amount by payment method. Yours look like this. you see with this one, this is more useful than our initial analysis. Our initial analysis took the average or the sum of that entire column. But this here still very much so gives us the average of that column, but it also groups it by something else. So here we have the ability to say, all right, I see the average amount by bank transfer, by credit card, by payment, PayPal. I still see the average, but I'm able to make informed decisions by the average. Any questions on that group by? Or were you able to apply it? You stuck, Toya? Oh, you got it. Oh, yeah. And you couldn't figure out like I'm telling you, it be so. I had a she started out in QA testing, like she was in QA testing, and I think I told you about her. She ended up getting a data engineer, which it don't happen like that. But she was like in a startup, and I was like, girl, okay. But she was saying how with her like having to like keep her code organized and like kind of train her brain to like go and look at the data and then do the work helped make her life easier because she was like going through it was like how she was doing it was like harder than it had to be. And I'm like, yeah, girl, when you keep your stuff organized like that, it looks better, but also it make your life easier. She, were you good on your end? Okay. You want to talk through it or you feel okay? Okay. Oh, like the first one. Oh, okay, okay, okay. With this one, with that group by, just put your payment method column in there and then group by payment method at the bottom at the front. Oh, and it threw that error at the bottom. Yes, yes. And that's it. Now that you done made that mistake though, if you make that mistake again, you gonna know what your problem is. Like that's the beauty of like working through stuff because like yeah, like some of the mistakes like don't really be mistakes. They might be a little typo or a little, when you see like, oh, like in your case, I forgot to comment out my code. I forgot to comment a column. Once you like make certain errors, your brain gonna automatically know what the problem is next time. Okay, okay. Because this one is going to the next one is having. And having is essentially it's low key a filter too. It is a filter actually, but in having you filter by the aggregate function instead of a column. Now, where we have always functioned, we're always like where this column equals this value, where text is cholesterol, where result is abnormal. We've been filtering. Now we are going to filter, but instead of like on the column, we very much so are filtering on aggregate functions. So in this case, having is going to go after your group by. It's going to go after your group by, and it filters based on a calculation. So for example, with this one, we have select this column. We're doing our aggregate function on this column. Sum, amount, as, total spent. From where though? From our sales table. Group by customer. Having sum of amount greater than 300. So instead of us saying where amount equals 100, which is going to give us where the amount is equal 100, now we're going to filter based on a calculation. So having sum of amount greater than 300 is very much so a filter, but it's filtering based on a calculation as opposed to an individual record. So that's how the having works. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, group by and having used to turn me every which way but loose. Like, what you talking about? Group by, having, and join used to turn me every which way but loose. But now it's like, oh, you mean like a filter, but calculating, like using that filter, like using that calculation as a filter. But it used to, like, I used to have, I don't know why my brain did not wrap around it. But and this is a good visualization actually of like those key differences between where and having, because they actually are both filters. They both very much so filters, but they just perform differently. Whereas where is like the individual roles. Having is an aggregation, period. But they both filter the data that you receive in your output. And this is an example down here at the bottom where amount is greater than 100. Having is having sum of amount greater than 300. So it's filtering, but they just filter based on different things. Which also goes back to like once you get like your nitty gritty teeth into like them basic concepts, you straight. Because they're all like seats in the same plane in every language, really. Because Excel does stuff like this, Python, like they all pretty much do kind of the same thing. But having and where, both are filters, but they filter based on different things. Like, for example, with having, let me pull it back over here. With having in our current code, having would like go under here. Well, I would say having amount. They go at greater than less than, Shira. Didn't I tell you? Greater than. I feel like I literally have to do my hands like, okay, greater than less than. Like, oh, wait. Amount is invalid. So it's the amount is invalid because it is not contained. Okay, so if I say payment amount is invalid in the having clause because it is not contained in the aggregate function or a group by clause. So I got my average amount in payment method, having the amount. Why is this is invalid? So average amount, and I got my group by payment method. I got my amount in my select statement though. Oh, maybe you. Yeah. So I got payment amount, but this is my payment schedule. Yeah, it is. So let me figure out why I am getting a bug. Group by. Where's my mouse? Okay, so I would be Having. Oh yeah, that's right. So it would have to be like having some of amount. So I would have to put my egg function down there because that's what I'm filtering on. That's right. So I would say having some of amount greater than 100. So I'm filtering it, but I'm filtering it based on the sum of amount. Whereas I was getting an error because I did not have some. I'm like, why am I getting an error? But yeah, when you say having, it's a filter, but it's based on a calculation. Any questions on that? So today's objectives, logical operators. What are logical operators? The ability to filter on multiple conditions. I need a list of students from this region and who made this grade. Or I need a list of people who are in this department and who make this salary, or whatever the case is. The ability to be able to filter on multiple conditions. We also got into aggregate functions. What's the average of this? What's the sum of this? What's the minimum of this? In addition to those aggregate functions, we leaned into group by and have. Group by is the ability to perform your aggregate function, but on a group of data though. I need the average payment amount. I need the average amount by region. I need the minimum amount from area, whatever that case is for you to perform that calculation, but to group that calculation too. That's where that group by is going to come into place. Then we got into having. Having is the ability to filter, but based on that ag function though. Filter based on a sum or count or minimum or max. I want to filter, but I want to filter on a certain calculation. Any questions about what we covered today? I think y'all on break week next week, right? Yeah, yeah. Y'all, we don't meet again until the 29th. So next week is y'all break week. If you want to take the time to go back and practice, for sure, go back and practice. Use the time to like catch up on your individualized transition plan. Use the time to like start getting all that stuff together and practice, because our third session is when we get into like our intermediate. Third session, we're gonna get in on join, which is why I've been like so driving it so hard with like data relationships, join, case statement, and subqueries. But each of those things is essentially an extension of something we done already did. Like join is going to lean very heavily on them data relationships. Subqueries ain't nothing but like a filter on steroids. Like it's like filtering based on another query. Case statement is when we get into like our logical if then type situation, if then else type situation, and that goes right back to filters too. So everything is like an extension on something else that we covered already. Any questions for today? Yep. Yep. That is why I have people, Toya, that come to me and they're like, well, what should I learn? What should I learn? When I met you and we were trying to determine like your starting point, and I was like, Toya, with you so deep in Excel and understanding like formulas and pivot tables and like conditional formatting, with you understanding all of those things, come on over to SQL, because that understanding is gonna like push your understanding in this space. That's exactly how it is. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's exactly how it is. And when you start, And that's how you accelerate your learning too. Because even like as you navigate the space, like for example, now I'm learning like Databricks, which is like big data, cloud, everything. All of that, all of this understanding, like my data relationships and how you were able to take this to this and this to that, it's accelerating my understanding in the other space. It's like they all function together. So with you, when I knew that like you were so deep in Excel like that, I'm like, whatever those things that you do in Excel, start when you get in SQL, start taking it right on back to Excel and like, oh, like a such and such in Excel. Sade is really big on that. The instructor that teaches Excel, like when things or certain concepts come up in Excel, she's always like an XYZ in SQL, like a pivot table, or because it really do work like that. Yeah, it really does work like that. And people think that they operate like separately. And I'm like, no, like they're very much so like all related. So yeah, very much so. Um, and then in Excel, the not the functions, the formulas and things really just look just like that. And when you look at like your output from SQL, like your output down here, that's the thing. You can extract that as a CSV format. Like you can extract it directly to Excel. I had a student, she was getting her CSV extracts from the data analyst, and her data analyst was essentially like extracting them from SQL. That's how I started. Because I started out just Excel, and then I had to hop in SQL because like the person I typically got my data from wasn't there. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is how this work all back here. So yeah, it's all very much so connected. Yeah, I had a good session today. Really good session. Mm-hmm. And once you get like I said, the like for example, the error you got with your group by. Once you get that again, you're gonna automatically know what to look at. And that's why when you learning this type of stuff, you literally gotta get under the hood. Like I can watch 32 videos and I'm still not going to like be able to like do this type of work. It make a difference. When I started out, it's concepts that like, for example, joins, group by, those concepts took me so long to like get comfortable with. Like I would be like, if I had to do a tech assessment and I had to do a join, I would just be like, I can't, I can't do this. Now I get it, and now I try to explain it in a way that like my brain understands it in like doing the work, but my brain just could not grasp the concept. And I look back like, girl, because some of the opportunities were like really good opportunities, but I just was they were just slipping through my hand because I just my brain did not get it. And with doing it, it was just like, okay, it was just one day I got it from like having to like redo it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And then like and to be honest, when I'm teaching these concepts, talking through them even helps me. Like even after doing this work for so many years, because the way that like you might do something that might be just a little different than I might do it, but it's still right though. So it's like even in doing that, it's like, all right, but is her code right though? Like, did she get her output? Did she do these things? And that really helps me like get the baseline understanding of how other people think, because things can be just a little different. Like even when y'all get on y'all teams, your teammate might write their code just a little different than you, and you might go and look at their code and be like, oh, okay, I see what he was trying to do. I see what they were doing. And it's okay. So it's like when you understand it, it helps like you to be able to navigate that space for real. But yeah, today was a really good session. Um, and if y'all need me, you know where to find me. Like I said, next week, y'all break week, take advantage of it, and we'll pull up. Make sure like you get those coding challenges that started to come out. Use them to just practice and kind of get your brain continuously like geared towards working. And Cherie, exactly what you're doing, Shira, I'm sorry, exactly what you're doing with looking for ways to like leverage that stuff. Keep doing it. Yeah. And that's data migration, but I'm gonna mind my business. And to tell you, I'm going through twice, so I'm like, God, leave. Yeah. But you know what? That's how you grow though. Like when people like when I literally it was Excel for me. And it came the technical skills came from like how you are. I'm trying to make my job easier. Like I have to do this to do my job, and you waiting on somebody else to come and do it for you. And it's just like I'm gonna do it myself. And in there, baby, I got a new skill. Like yeah, Okay, what's up, Facebook? Hey, thank y'all for joining me tonight. I think I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and where else am I? I don't know. YouTube. But anyway, wherever you're joining me from, thank you so much for joining us today. What you just stayed in on was our live SQL session. My name is Larita Shaw. For those who do not know me, my name is Larita Shaw. I'm a self-taught senior data engineer. I have over 13 years of experience within the space of data, and I'm also the founder of Data Analytics Simplified. What you just set in on was our live SQL session. We meet up weekly and we go through different SQL concepts. We apply those changes. Everyone has their own environment. I don't do past and learning here. We do the work. My cohort this time consists of an educator in the classroom, someone that is in healthcare, and someone that is in HR. So pretty diverse cohort. We offer SQL, Advanced Excel, Power BI. All of my students leave with an artifact for their portfolio, for those who do not know. In addition to that, we meet up every month for our monthly community cohort. This month, we're doing interviews. What else? What else? But anyway, thank you for joining us. Bye.